Thank you for tuning in to Macro View Television and welcome to a brand new edition of Taiwan Outlook, the program that presents the different faces and lets you hear the different voices on Taiwan. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. Have you heard of therapeutic horseback riding before? What is it? And how can it help people with disability, especially young children? Well, we're going to find out on our program today because we are delighted to have as our special guest Mrs. Uta Rindfleisch-Wu, who is currently the program director of the Therapeutic Riding Center of Taiwan, to share with us her experiences in this area. Welcome to our program, Uta.
Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Yes, and Uta, we know originally you're from Germany, but you've been in Taiwan for almost 34 years. And then tell us a little bit about yourself and why did you decide to come to Taiwan back in the 1980s? Please.
I came to Taiwan because I studied Chinese studies and Chinese I wanted to learn the spoken language.
Good. All right.
Yeah, and during the time I was here, I learned to know my later husband.
Good.
So after I graduated, I came back to Taiwan and I'm here since then.
Okay. And how often now do you get to go back home to Germany? Once a year?
Yeah, about that. Especially when there are conferences or competitions.
Good. Of course.
Yeah,
yes.
But most of the time I'm here.
Well, we're going to find out exactly what happened in the last 33 years in the next 48 minutes. And Uta, we know that you first came into contact with the so-called hippotherapy. Yeah. And could you tell us what it is and why did you come into contact with hippotherapy? Please.
Yeah, hippotherapy, or it depends on where you are. For the Germans, it's physiotherapy on horseback.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought it was something to do with a hippopotamus.
No.
Okay.
That might be a little bit more difficult.
Yes, of course, yes.
Getting the hippos. No, hippo is the Greece name for
Greece
horse.
Name. Okay,
and
my apologies.
Because the Greeks were actually the first who find out that horses are very good for people.
Yeah, very sensitive.
Not only good for war, but also for the health of people.
Terrific. And how did you come in contact with hippotherapy?
Yeah.
Yes.
After my marriage, I had 2 children, and my second child has cerebral palsy.
Oh, cerebral palsy.
So we were doing a lot of therapies, physiotherapy, language therapy, and so on. And one day in the hospital, somebody told me that there will be a workshop about therapeutic riding.
Okay.
And whether I would be interested in joining. And because I was riding as a child by myself, so I thought that was a very interesting kind of therapy.
Very new,
Yeah, so I joined and that was the beginning.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you then. During the period when your second child received therapeutic riding as a therapy, apparently it was not as successful as you would have liked. What happened?
No, it was not successful for my daughter.
Okay.
It was this riding stable I went to gave me the chance to put up a program on myself.
Okay.
And that was my goal, not only to do it for my daughter, but also for other children.
Good.
Because I saw how good it was for my daughter, how successful actually, in her case, especially on her balance.
All right.
And but by that time, we still did not have the 5-day week.
No.
So I tried to train some physiotherapists working at the Chang'an Hospital, but they were working very hard during the week, and on the weekends they still had to work, and sometimes on Sundays they had to go to some workshops. So they were, by the time I had trained them to the point we could have started, they all were too tired, they couldn't go on.
All right. And I also know that in the year 2004, that you came in contact with the Qizhi Vocational Training Center.
Yes.
And then you helped them, and then they also have the opportunity to have you on board to form this Therapeutic Riding Center of Taiwan. Can you tell us a little bit about the background for that?
Yeah. The Vocational Training Center, Qizhi, already had the riding stable there.
Good.
And it was meant to be a place where the mentally challenged students from the center could have some vocational training in grooming the horses, in doing all the stable work and so on. So at this place we already had some people who could work on or help with the therapeutic riding. And it turned out that these students also were very good horse leaders. Because for therapeutic riding you do not only need horses, you also need a lot of people, volunteers usually.
Exactly.
But in Taiwan it's not so easy to find volunteers, and especially volunteers who are able to lead horses. So having these students working there and being very familiar with our horses really made it possible that the stable was transformed into the therapeutic riding stable.
That's wonderful. And we also understand that, Uta, in Taiwan, there are apparently roughly 60,000 people, under the age of 18 with some type of, disability. And certainly, this is a very sizable, population. But out of the 60,000 people, do most of them or their parents know about the therapeutic riding therapy that's available and that may be able to help them?
Yeah, we see a difference between Taipei and for example, Taoyuan. And our center is located in Taoyuan.
Of course.
So at the beginning, nearly 100% of our clients came from Taipei. So they obviously had more information about this kind of therapy. Later on, when the Association for Cerebral Palsy was founded in Taoyuan, then we started to work together with them, and then more and more children from Taoyuan came to our center. Now, still, the biggest part is from Taipei, but more and more are coming from Taoyuan.
Good.
And we also see that the parents in Taipei are more open. First of all, to take their children out of the houses and to try different kinds of therapies, while people in Taoyuan are still more conservative.
And Uta, let me ask you, rightly or wrongly, many people in Taiwan would, look at horseback riding as a recreational sport for the rich, for the well-being. Because we have to be honest. You've been here 33 years, so it's not something that an ordinary family would think of as one of the preferred choices. Whether for therapeutic reasons or for recreational reasons for their kids. And then, do you think such a misconception has been a barrier, has been an obstacle for some of the families, who may have the need for therapeutic riding for their kids, but are reluctant because we're not financially well off, so this is going to cost a lot of money, so we don't want to pursue that route. Do you think that's an accurate description?
It's not totally a misunderstanding. Because Taiwan is not a horsey land. More than 10 years ago, I had some numbers of how many horses were living in Taiwan and how many in Switzerland. And Switzerland is also not a very big country, and it's a very hilly country. So, but it was about 2,000 in Taiwan and 20,000 in Switzerland.
10 times the difference.
So it's a very, very big difference. And if you go to USA or Germany, it's even more. So, in Taiwan, land is very expensive. Scarce and expensive. And when we are racing horses, we have to import nearly everything. Even the hay our horses are eating. So it really cannot be very, very cheap.
Of course.
In our case, we do charge our clients, but it's not the costs, the real costs. So it's only about the half of our real costs, and we still have to get donations to be able to offer this service.
Right.
There are some organizations or some people who donate, especially for children with financial needs, so that they can do it for free.
Well.
Or we are working together with the Cerebral Palsy Association or with some centers of early development. And these organizations can apply for some funds, for example, and then let their children come to our center for a very, very small amount of money. The south of Taiwan is an organization which is called Ba Gua Liao Foundation, and they do each year one term of therapeutic riding, and I think it's for free for the children joining this program.
Okay. We know the Therapeutic Riding Center has been around since 2004. So over the last 11 years, do you think such a misconception is gradually now being eradicated? People don't have the inhibition or the reluctance, and they just decide to pursue the therapy. That has helped.
In the last years, we got more and more media coverage.
Good.
And so people will get in contact with us, and then we can tell them what.
Good. That's terrific.
What we can do for them.
Okay. And, Uta, a lot of people would, ask me, will ask you probably the question I'm going to ask you, which is what is the angle? What is the connection between horseback riding and as a form of treatment, of course, to help, people, especially young children with disability? What is the medical explanation or therapeutic explanation for it? Please.
The horse has a lot of special characteristics. One of it is that it has a strong back, and we can ride the horse. And the horse at the walk, the pattern of movement is very similar to the movement of our hips during walking. So people who have lost the ability of walking or never had the ability can indirectly learn to walk. That does not mean that a child who is now sitting on a wheelchair will do a little bit of horseback riding and then is able to walk out of our stable. No. But if they do other therapies at the same time and they develop the ability to walk, then what the horses gives them is a more natural walk. Because the spinal cord gets these impulses and learns indirectly the pattern, the movement pattern. And on the same time, you're sitting on the horse with your legs open. If you try to sit backwards on a chair and have to open your legs, then your back will straighten up. And that is very important because when they're sitting on horseback, the back will straighten up, and they can improve or develop their back muscles. That is actually the first which we see in all of our children, that they are able to sit straight, and they are able to sit straight not only when they are on the horseback, but then also back home. For example, one of our children, when she went to school, she was not able to look at the blackboard for a long time because she was not able to sit up.
Sit up straight.
But due to the training on horseback, she now is able to sit straight and can look on the blackboard and is able to get all this information in what she's supposed to learn at school. So that is one thing. And also when you're sitting straight, you have the ability to move your hands. And being able to move your hands means you can take care of yourself. You can wash your face. You can take off and on your clothes. You can eat. You can use your mouse, the computer mouse. So usually a lot of our children, when they're using the mouse, they would go like this. But if they're able to control their back, then they can use this much more efficiently.
And I will suppose by, you're the program director at the center. And then we also need to educate the families and the parents, especially, of people with disability, that this is only part of the overall, treatment. It's not sufficient by itself. It's not probably going to, make the conditions go away, by having the, therapeutic, writing lessons, or treatment for a few months. And do you think among the parents that you have come in contact with, that concept has now become more commonly accepted, that this is only part of the support, therapy that we're going to, give to our children? It's not going to be something like a miracle that make the condition cerebral palsy go away, for example.
Yeah, I just talked about the physical part.
Yes.
And, okay, our horses can do not only good things for people with physical disabilities,
okay,
but also for psychological problems. And in this case, a person can be cured.
Okay.
But conditions like cerebral palsy or autism,
yes,
that is not something which just can go away, which can disappear.
Right.
We only can help to improve. And our big goals is that our children will be able to function in life.
Exactly.
So what I just said, all these examples, give them the ability to live on their own,
yeah,
to be not dependent on people helping them.
yes,
And that is our goal,
all
that
right,
a lot of functions get better so that they don't have to depend on other people
all
in
right,
their later life.
okay. Next, Uta, we're going to ask you about 3 young children with a physical condition, and they are so-called the little knights. And they are, let me make sure I get their names correctly, Sun Yuren and Arnold Guo, and then the Wu Weibo.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the stories for each one of them, please?
Actually, all of these 3 boys have a cerebral palsy.
Okay.
So, and they have experienced similar difficulties in life.
Okay.
And this documentary was done by a director as his graduation work from university. And he came to us and asked whether he could do this documentary, and we said, okay.
Yes.
And he chose these 3 boys.
Okay.
And after I saw the documentary by myself, I was really shocked to see how they were bullied in school. Okay. And also to see, I was not so shocked to see when Arnold went to the physiotherapy and was crying all the time because it hurted so much. I had experienced that with my daughter too. Even if she was not crying in the therapy room, there were other people. And so taking her to physiotherapy was always a lot of pressure for the mom also, because the whole atmosphere was really not very pleasant.
No.
And you see the big difference, Arnold in the physio and then Arnold on horseback. Horseback is also doing the same things.
Yes.
It's stretching his tendons, but without being so painful.
Yeah, and so
because
depressed.
The horse is always walking and it's stretching and giving and stretching and giving. So it's not stretching
all the time.
And
yes.
you really feel very painful. It's slowly, but it's doing the same work.
Okay, and we understand that the documentary was, released in 2014,
yes.
and then but it was done actually 3 years ago, and then that was also in the year 2011. That was also the time that when the Sun Yuren attended the qualifier for the London Paralympics, and tell us a little bit about that experience, and were there any stories that you can share with us, please?
Yeah, we went to the qualifier in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, yes.
And in Hong Kong, of course, we have to use borrowed horses.
Okay.
We cannot bring our own horses there.
Over, yes.
And each rider was given 2 horses to choose from. And one of the horses actually couldn't do the movements which were required for his test.
Okay.
So we only had the other horse. But this horse and Uren, they just did not go together.
Oh, okay.
Every time on one side he wanted to canter, the horse kicked out and didn't want to do
Yes.
it. And then we asked the organizers whether it would be possible to try a third horse, because they still had some horses.
Yes.
But first they said no, but then the Australian team had the same request, and then they said, okay, you two can switch horses.
All right.
And we switched the horses, and for both riders it worked out better.
That's wonderful, yes.
Yeah, we thought it's wonderful.
Yes, but
then,
what happened?
Before a competition there's always a veterinarian check,
Okay.
which is called the trot up.
Oh, okay.
And our horse did not pass the trot up in the beginning.
Because?
We had to trot up for 7 times till it was allowed. The judges and the veterinarian thought it had some issue with one of his feet. I actually couldn't see it.
Okay.
The horse was a little bit stiff, but I couldn't see what they thought was the problem.
Okay.
And of course, I mean, these horses were not our own horses. They were provided, and we would have assumed that provided horses are totally sound. And they had some other horses doing the trot up, spare horses, but one of those horses was more up in the air than on the ground. So it didn't seem to be a very suitable horse for a disabled rider.
Of course, yeah.
And finally it got allowed into the competition. But you can know, if the judge doesn't want to allow this horse into the competition, you will not get very good grades on his paces.
Of course.
So we actually were already defeated before the competition really started.
All right. But Uta, you know, I mean, you're very close to these, you know, kids.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, by having them to participate in the competition, of course, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's something to look forward to. But also on the flip side, you know, when something like this happens, were you ever concerned, or the parents, that it could be another, you know, pressure, another, you know, disappointment to them? You know, was there something that, you know, put into the calculation?
I mean, we know, and we let our riders know that when it comes to horses, it's one part is the rider, and one part are the horses. And we don't blame our riders if they're on non-familiar horses and it doesn't work out. I mean, you really can't blame them for this.
Of course.
And we just tell them what was good and what could be done better the next time. And actually, one person who saw Uren riding this horse thought it was phenomenal what he did on this horse, because they know this horse. We didn't know it. So they know how other people are riding this horse. And they saw Uren riding it and thought, oh, you are doing a really good job. It was not enough for the qualifier,
judges,
but
for the personal.
He did his best, and
that's all we can ask.
We cannot blame him for that.
No, of course not. All right.
But on the other side, like you said, I mean, going out to competitions and then not reaching the goal, it put more and more pressure every time you go out.
Yeah, of course.
And then you have to cope with that.
Okay. Uta, we were talking about the documentary that college graduate made for the 3 children. And this short film, was nominated for Outstanding Short Films at the Golden Harvest Award. And this is, of course, a huge honor. And let me ask you, what does the nomination mean to you and mean for the children? Please.
The nomination, of course, was very important, that people took notice of this documentary. And when we went there for a screening, afterwards somebody came to me and said, oh, now I know what it means to be a disabled person and what difficulties people have in life. And I feel the distance, because people often don't know how to deal with disabled people.
Exactly.
And she had the feeling the distance was now
narrowing.
Not narrowing, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is the most important part of this documentary. It has not to be so much about the writing itself, but more about the difficulties disabled people are facing.
Yes. And also raising the public awareness about people with disability in our society, and not to treat them, in the sense that, hey, these people are different from us, and then, because of ignorance, people don't understand the condition. Ignorance breeds, the kinds of discriminatory activities that we often see. For example, you said in the documentary, you see how the kids were bullied, by others. So this is something, of course, as from the angle of public education, it's very, very important, very, very helpful.
I also don't like the description saying disabled.
Oh, okay.
These people are not able.
Okay, all right.
They're able to do a lot of things,
Yeah, of
and
course.
they're able to do things not everybody's doing, like writing, for example. I like to say people with challenges.
Challenges, okay.
And I mean, even we, when we are getting older, we might face these challenges too.
Yeah, of course.
Or an accident is happening.
Yeah.
And you might be going onto a wheelchair.
Yeah, you never know. Just
maybe then you think about therapeutic writing too.
People have challenges all the time, including me. Today on the program, I have a hard time saying your name right. So, anyway, another thing that we mentioned earlier is about the funding for the center. Yeah. We said at the beginning that horseback riding is considered a sport or recreation form for the well-off. And not every family in Taiwan could afford it. And you also mentioned about the number of possibilities in terms of outside support, government programs and grants and things. So make sure the parents and the children can come to the center. But overall, that may not be enough. And then as a program director, you got to look ahead, see what was, available on the future horizon. Can you tell us then a little bit about your funding plans for the center, please?
Yeah, we are facing now also a very big challenge, and that is that our center in about 2 years' time will have to move from where we are now.
All right.
And of course, we have to find a place which is big enough.
Yeah.
And we have to find a place which is not too far away from the freeway. Yeah. Because travel time is something we do not want our children to have a too long travel time.
Exactly, yes.
To come to our center. Of course, if we are able to find this new place, then we have the chance to build the center according to our needs.
Okay.
At the moment, where we now have our small indoor arena, that was a factory before, so we used what was available there and then changed it into an indoor arena, into a classroom and so on. Okay. But the whole outlet is not really absolutely suitable for our needs. And moving to a new place would give us the chance to really plan according to our needs. Okay. And our goal would actually be to have a place where we can include also able-bodied people.
Oh, okay.
And not setting the disabled people or people with challenges apart.
Okay.
So that they're really included in society, in activities done together. And that could also solve one of our other problems, that the problems of the helpers we need during the therapeutic riding sessions. Because then these people riding at our place, we would train them to lead horses, and they would not be afraid of horses.
Exactly.
Because we had volunteers before. Once a horse was making a sound, they were getting afraid to run away, and our children on the horse, oh, what's happening?
Yes. All right. And so besides funding, that you will also welcome people who would like to be volunteers at the center. Is that correct?
Yes.
And any other materials or support that you think the public can help the center to help more people?
Actually, really, funding is the most important.
It's the key, yes.
Then finding a piece of land.
Okay.
We can build our new center.
Okay.
That is our biggest concern at the moment. And then, of course, the volunteers. And I mean, volunteering, you can have special abilities with which you can help us.
Okay.
And that could be translating materials from abroad.
Okay.
That could be documenting the improvements of our children, maybe with photos, maybe with writing.
Yes.
It could be all different kinds
number of different kinds.
It just depends. Or preparing some teaching materials, if you're good in sewing or things like that. That could also be very helpful for us.
Okay. And Uta, we know that there are people coming to the center with different kinds of challenges.
Yes.
Some of them with cerebral palsy, some of them with autism, and of course with different groups of people, then the kind of therapy that they will receive is probably different.
Yes.
Can you tell us then your experience in terms of designing the different therapies available to the different groups of people that you're helping?
Yeah, we had mentioned the children with cerebral palsy,
yes,
and that we are using the walk of the horse mostly.
Of the horse. Okay.
But when it comes to autistic children, we need to do more at the trot and canter, because autistic children need this stronger input.
Okay. All right.
Their nervous system is different from ours, and so then they get all this information unfiltered from the outside world, so they have a sensory overload.
Okay.
But on horseback, with this very strong input, the sensory system actually calms down.
Good.
And then they are able to learn things.
All right.
And also, autistic children are not good in reading people's faces, reading people's emotion. Somebody already might explode, but they still do not know. And when the person then exploding, what's happening here?
Yes. Okay.
And because our horses are herd animals, so they have a lot of social behavior, because they're living together with other horses, and they communicate by body language. So autistic children are better learning body language from horses first, and then we hope they can transfer it to people. So that is something different. So not all our program has to be on horseback. Some is just
interaction
watching
with the animal.
Horses, interacting with them, and so on.
All right. We also understand that while you are designing the training sessions for the different visitors to the center, that you also take into account their background information. For example, we mentioned about one of the little knights, Arnold Guo, who was born in the U.S. and came back to Taiwan, so he speaks English fluently, and you put that into the design of the course that you have available for him. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we can use English to teach
of course,
him.
It's an additional, avenue.
Additional.
Yes.
Yeah, but actually, it's very interesting. Some of our autistic children, they like English very much, just because you mentioned English.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and of course we try to find out what is the interests of the children, to get into their world, to narrow the distance between us and them. And once they feel very connected to us, it's much easier to improve.
Yes, and also, I mean, do you at times may have to alter the therapy because of the reaction from the children? For example, maybe some of the things that is being offered to them and they are put under, they may not respond well enough. Or do you have to alter the?
That can happen. Yes. And not everybody is responding to the same things.
Of
you
course.
have to find what they like.
Okay.
But if we I mean, we want to use the horse the most.
Of course.
And we want to get their concentration on the horse. We have some children who are sitting on the horse but do not really connect to the horse. But we have found out through a small study we did with one of the centers of early development that if we do not only riding on horseback but also have part of the program is for them to groom the horses, to feed the horses, to connect with the horses, the results are even better.
Good. All right. And finally, before we end this part of the program, does the horse, need to be under any type of special training?
Of course.
Okay. For example, I mean, what do you need to train them for?
First of all, the horse must provide good paces, so that it's really therapeutic for our riders.
Okay.
A lot of people think if it's an old and very safe horse, then it's a good horse for therapy. But no, the horse has to have good muscles. It has to be subtle.
Yeah.
It has to have
a
strong, but also subtle back.
Okay.
And it has to have a good training. The better the training, the better is the therapy. And of course, because of our children, they might be screaming, they might do some special movements, they might not be very still on the horseback. So we have to prepare the horses for all of this.
Exactly.
Or there might the wheelchairs are getting very close to them. There might be noises.
Okay.
Or if we play some games with them, then have to be trained to accept all these games.
Good. Uta, we certainly, I mean, myself included, have learned a lot about the kinds of programs, services that you have offered at the center. But, at the start of the, this part of the program, we're going to ask you something that may not necessarily be fair. Because a lot of people, after watching our program today, may ask that, Mr. Wu or, Uta, do you think that therapeutic horseback riding is effective for people with challenges? And based on your experiences with the center over 11 years, have you actually seen cases, or many cases, if that's possible, that people actually coming to the center, their conditions have improved to such an extent that they do not need to continue their therapy at the center anymore? Please.
Okay. If it would not be effective, I probably would not spend my time doing it.
Yes, all right.
And of course, there are certain things that will improve and will stay.
Okay.
And there are things which you still have to go on with therapy. For example, everybody, if we do not do sports,
exercise.
The condition of our body will deteriorate.
Yes.
And that is the more with people who are not able to walk very well, they do have to do something to keep their body in the best shape possible.
Okay.
For example, some autistic children have started to talk at our center.
Really?
And that is something very important, whether you'll be able to talk or not. Because not being able to talk, a lot of people think you are also not able to think. But that's not true.
That's not the case.
That's not the case. So being able to talk is very, very important. When it comes to other parts, because I mentioned the nervous system of the autistic children, and they just need this input to calm down. Okay. And you can't say, I have done 3 months of therapy, and then it will be forever, the nervous system will be calmed down. No.
Okay, no,
you have to do that continuously. Yes. And then something about the other part which I mentioned, being able to read the faces of people, if that is learned, that will be forever.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So there are some parts which will improve and will be there forever, but others you still have to go on.
Okay.
And for example, we have seen a lot of children with CP who have improved very much during their time in elementary school.
Okay.
But then they come to middle school and then they start to grow. But during this part of their life, middle school is very demanding on them.
Yes.
So they usually stop doing therapy, and then their condition is deteriorating again.
Yes.
And that is because during that time, the growing time, they will need to do it too.
Okay.
And we have seen a lot who then deteriorated again, and we thought that was really a pity.
Yeah.
If they would have gone on through this stretch of their life, it could have been very
remarkable
helpful.
Difference.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you probably also need to sometimes play the role of a counselor to the parents, to the family.
Yes.
You know, give them the right notion, the right idea about the therapy itself. You know, maybe there will be times when the family says that, hey, you know, Mrs. Wu, we don't want to do this anymore. You know, because you know, my child is not responding well, and then we'll have to drive an hour from Taipei, you know, every 2 days or so, and they don't want to. We don't want to do this anymore. Then how do you say to them?
I mean, we don't force anybody
No, of course,
to go.
not.
But there's something else coming in mind. Sometimes, especially for the autistic children, the horse can be a medium to educate their children because they have sometimes also emotional problems and behavioral problems.
Okay.
And maybe some of them are a little bit aggressive towards the horses, and then we will take them down and say, you have to come down now, and only when you behave the right way, you will get back on horseback.
Good.
But that is something not everybody is accepting.
Yeah.
Some people say, I'm coming here and I'm paying the money so that that my child is riding.
Okay.
But actually, for this child, the much more important thing is to learn to control itself.
Exactly.
But if the parents then are not going along and let the child do playing in the sand or something else he likes to do very much, then it's not effective.
No, of course
so
not.
during that time, they're just not allowed to do anything else. And it might be a session where they're on horseback only for a very short time. But if they learn to control themselves, it will be so much helpful in their life
that is
outside the stable.
Big progress, yes. And let me ask you, Uta, you mentioned about the possible move of the center in about 2 years. Hopefully you can find a place, you know, big enough to have the center relocated. And what are the other plans that you have in the future for the center? You mentioned also about having more, you know, visitors to the center, not just people with challenges, but others as well. Is that also part of the future, future vision that you have for the center?
Yeah, of course. That could be one of our finances.
Yes, it's a concern.
It's a concept that if we accept able-bodied riders, that could help us to finance also the disabled children. But on the other hand, I really would like to see that horseback riding is becoming more popular in Taiwan.
Yes.
Because horses are so good for everybody.
Yes.
For the mind and the body of everybody.
Okay, yes.
And we now are actually also offering some programs in kind of character training. Because, like I mentioned, horses are herd animals and they have rich social behavior. We can do a lot of behavioral education also.
Good.
And for students with low esteem, self-esteem, that also can be very, very helpful.
Good.
And because the horse is such a big animal, the children will have respect towards the horses. Good. So often we do not say, you can't do this, you can't do that.
All right.
if they do it, it might be dangerous for them.
Of
so we can
course.
always go back to the horse and say, yeah, be careful. If you do it like this, the horse might kick you or might
Yes.
bite you or
They have a
something like
reaction
that.
to it.
So,
Yes.
and then it's not us saying, you can't do it.
All
We're
right.
just suggesting,
Okay.
and they will accept it much more easily.
Terrific. Uta, we only have about 2 minutes left in the program. Let me ask you about this year's Congress of Horses and Therapy. I know you have attended twice before the World Congress of Horses and Therapy, and this year is in Taiwan. And then tell us a little bit about the kinds of programs that you have, prepared for the Congress this year, please.
Yeah, the Congress, actually, we are very proud that
it's coming to Taiwan.
The first time in Asia, and that this will be in Taiwan.
Yes.
We are very proud of that. It's a scientific Congress.
Good.
And the Congress, the goal is to provide the research and the scientific basic so that we can give these numbers or these results to people funding our program or to the government. Of course, our goal would be that therapeutic riding could be once funded by health insurance.
Yes, good.
So we hope that the government and also the medical sector of Taiwan will take notice of this kind of program and how good it can be.
Okay, good. Uta, it's certainly been a pleasure having you on the program today. I have certainly learned a lot from the conversation that we had, and also the kind of work that you do along with your colleagues at the center. Certainly very admirable because it takes a lot of love, patience, and also commitment. I want to wish you all the best in your future personal and professional endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. And I just have to say, it's very nice place to work.
Yes.
Because we see the improvements of the children and how happy they are at our center.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to have you as part of the Taiwan community, all the way from Germany. Thank you very
so
much. Yes. Thank you very much for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on Mac Review Television. Thank you.